estate planning for veterans. Is estate planning different for veterans? Hey folks, elder law care attorney Patrick Kelleher coming to you from elderlawcare.com. Folks, I'm also an accredited veterans benefits attorney, and I'm very proud to have that criteria as part of my education because I can assist veterans with veterans planning. Folks, recently got a question, is estate planning different for veterans? And I'm going to answer that question today, folks. So if you're a veteran or if you love a veteran, please pull up your chair, get your notebook out and your pen. There's not a lot of big differences typically with veterans and non-veterans planning, but it's important to work, from my experience, with an estate elder law attorney that is familiar with veterans benefits, okay? So I'm going to share with you a few reasons from my experience why that comes into play. Number one, folks, from my experience, our veteran clients, we work with a lot of veteran clients, it is not uncommon that they, number one, are receiving some property tax credit or what they call a property tax abatement when you're a DAV. What is DAV? Disabled veteran status, okay? If you're a disabled veteran receiving veterans benefits from the Veterans Administration, oftentimes, depending on your percentage of disability, veterans can receive anywhere from $400 a year to $800 a year to $1,000 a year credit on your real estate property taxes if you own a home. And if they're a disabled veteran, that's one of the first questions I will ask. Are you a disabled veteran, Bill or Mary? And if the answer is yes, my follow-up question to them is, are you receiving a property tax abatement? And they'll quickly know that because they have to put in for that annually with their tax assessor's office in the town or county that they reside in. So they're typically familiar with that benefit. And where it comes into play, what's really important for the estate planning elder law attorney to know, if Bill and Mary desire to create what we call an irrevocable Medicaid trust to protect their home from the nursing home, which is very common, right? If they transfer their property directly from Bill and Mary into their trust or treasure chest and relinquish all legal interest in their property, they're usually going to lose that veterans benefit altogether, okay? When the client runs the numbers and they make a practical, logical decision, from my experience, most folks will say, hey, Patrick, we're going to let go of that veterans benefit that we're receiving for the greater good of protecting the whole property, protecting the whole house for our spouses and for our children as well. But it's important for the estate elder law attorney to know that about that rule and that law, and assess and evaluate and properly counsel you, the client, around that, okay? Another important area for veterans benefits is what we call aid in attendance. When we're creating the irrevocable Medicaid asset protection trust for our veteran clients, we also create a component called a veterans asset protection trust, okay? That is really important because that allows and it facilitates the veteran and their widow or widower becoming eligible for what they call VA aid in attendance benefits someday. It's a means-tested government benefit through the VA, and you have to qualify just like Medicaid. You have to be indigent, you have to be impoverished, but you never know. As the clients get into their 80s, and if they're low income and they have lesser assets, and their assets are properly protected in their Veterans Asset Protection Trust, there's only currently a 3-year look-back period for VA aid in attendance benefits. Really, really important. So that's another important area that you should know about. And so when you're working with your estate elder law attorney, they should be familiar with Veterans Asset Protection Trust as well. I'm going to suggest or recommend an additional protection if the veteran is receiving what we call full 100% disability. And we've had cases where Vietnam veterans who passed away because of their injuries sustained or suffered in the Vietnam War era crisis, and those benefits extended to their widow. The widow now is receiving typically 100% real estate property tax credit or abatement. Now, you may never meet the veteran because they may have passed away many years ago, but their spouse comes to you now, maybe in their 70s or 80s, and they're receiving 100% property tax abatement or credit, which is substantial. So that's where you have to have a conversation with the client around, do you want to relinquish, do you want to give up that veterans benefits credit, which could be $10,000 per year. And if they run the numbers, they live another 20, 30 years, it's quite substantial. It could be $200,000, $300,000 in their lifetimes right there. So that client needs to be really carefully assessed, evaluated, run the numbers, and counseled around that. And I've had cases where clients will say, hey, Patrick, I'm going to keep our 100% property tax abatement because it means a lot to me for my late spouse who gave their life for the country. And they may be of age and they do not think they can beat out the 5-year look-back period for nursing home protection. And I had a recent case, no names, of course. The client comes from the medical field and has nurses in their family who love them dearly. And they say, hey, Patrick, if I ever become completely incapacitated, I'm never going into a nursing home. I know a lot of people say that, like my late dad, but these clients were properly equipped. They had folks with the skill set and the medical acumen in the family, and they were going to come to the rescue if their parent became completely incapacitated to make sure they rendered care for them at home. But you also look for other layers of protection, like do they have long-term care insurance also, which will supplement that in-home care? Do they have sufficient pension, Social Security, required minimum distributions from the IRA or 401k, which also can supplement their in-home care, where they have all these layers of protection which will keep them out of a nursing home. That's a case where you probably want to maintain that property tax abatement or credit for that client. And there's ways you can do that. So folks, don't do it yourself. Make sure you meet with an experienced estate elder law attorney, preferably even one that might have an accreditation with the VA or Veterans Administration that's familiar with all these rules that I just discussed. Because folks, it's up to you to watch out for your family and continue to protect them the best way you can. If you found this video helpful, please scroll down, post a question, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Pick up a copy of my book on Amazon, How to Avoid the Four-Headed Monster of Estate Planning and Elder Law. Thanks for joining us here today at elderlawcare.com.